If you've ever found yourself struggling with the constant push to do more, achieve more, and be more, then this video is going to change your perspective forever. Today, we're talking about Wu Wei, the art of effortless action, as taught by the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Now, I know what you're probably thinking: how can doing less lead to achieving more? Isn't success all about effort, hard work, and control? Isn't it all about striving, pushing through challenges, and forcing results? Well, Lao Tzu's philosophy, particularly his concept of Wu Wei, will make you rethink everything. What if I told you that by doing less, you could actually achieve more? It sounds impossible, right? But stick around, because that's exactly what we're going to explore today. This video isn't just about ancient philosophy, it's about real-life applications that can revolutionize how you approach your life, your career, your relationships, and even your creativity. What if I told you that the more you try to control things, the more you end up pushing them away? This isn't some vague spiritual concept. It's a practical way of living that has been proven to bring about better results with far less effort. Whether you're a leader, an entrepreneur, a creative, or simply someone who wants to live a more peaceful and balanced life, Lao Tzu's teachings on Wu Wei offer a path to success without stress, flowing effortlessly with life rather than against it. Sound intriguing, right? That's what we're diving into today. So get ready to shift your mindset, embrace spontaneity, and discover how non-action can be your secret weapon for success. But before we dive in, I need your support to continue creating this type of impactful content. If you find today's video valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. Also, if you're feeling generous and want to support the channel further, feel free to hit that super thanks button below. Every bit of support goes a long way in allowing me to bring you even more insightful content. Let's make this journey together. Now, let's get started. Lao Tzu, the legendary Taoist philosopher, presents a concept that is fundamentally different from the way many of us are taught to live our lives. In a world obsessed with productivity, constant hustle, and unyielding control, Lao Tzu introduces us to a powerful and paradoxical idea: Wu Wei, or non-action, which can also be understood as effortless action. At first glance, this might sound strange, even impractical. How can we accomplish anything if we don't push hard for it? If we don't try with all our might? Isn't that how success is achieved in the modern world? By working harder than anyone else, by outlasting and overpowering the competition? Lao Tzu's teachings on Wu Wei challenge this very mindset, suggesting that sometimes the harder we try to control things, the further we get from our goals. It's a revolutionary perspective. Rather than striving, forcing, and manipulating circumstances, we can instead learn to flow with life, to move in harmony with the natural course of events. This doesn't mean we should sit idle, waiting for things to fall into place on their own. Rather, it suggests that true success comes from knowing when to act and when to step back, allowing things to unfold in their own time. This paradox, achieving more by doing less, is something that can be difficult for most of us to grasp in a society that idolizes hard work and constant action. We are raised to believe that only through relentless effort and control can we achieve greatness. But Lao Tzu asks us to reconsider this. He proposes that there's another way, a way that requires less force and more trust in the process of life. In essence, Lao Tzu is teaching us that we can achieve our goals not by forcing them into existence, but by allowing them to emerge naturally, through our alignment with the Tao, the ultimate source of harmony and balance in the universe. Lao Tzu's teachings are timeless because they resonate with the human experience at a deep level. We've all felt the frustration of trying too hard, pushing through obstacles that seem insurmountable, only to find ourselves exhausted and farther from our goals. Think about trying to impress someone we're attracted to. Often, the harder we try, the more they seem to pull away. Or consider preparing for an important presentation or performance. No matter how much we rehearse, how much we study, when we are overly focused on getting everything perfect, we often find ourselves stumbling in front of an audience. The mind, in these situations, becomes too full of worry and control. We get in our own way, preventing ourselves from performing naturally and effortlessly. Lao Tzu's approach to this dilemma is deeply profound. Rather than focusing on rigid strategies or forcing outcomes, he encourages us to cultivate a mindset of detachment, not in the sense of caring less, but in the sense of letting go of the obsessive need to control every aspect of life. It's about trusting that the universe and our lives have an innate flow that can lead us to where we need to go, without us having to struggle against it. The essence of Lao Tzu's philosophy is captured in his idea of Wu Wei, which is often translated as non-action. However, this doesn't mean inaction or laziness. It's a much deeper concept. Wu Wei is about acting in alignment with the natural order of things, not through force, but through spontaneity and responsiveness. This is not about being passive or idle. It's about being fully present and responsive to the flow of life without attempting to bend it to our will. A great way to understand Wu Wei is to consider the natural world. Take a river, for example. A river moves effortlessly, carving through the land, shaping the earth around it without trying to force its way. It doesn't attempt to change the direction it flows, but simply flows naturally, responding to the contours of the land and the obstacles in its path. The river's power lies not in its force, but in its ability to move in harmony with the world around it, constantly adapting and flowing with what comes its way. In our own lives, we often think of success as something that must be wrestled into existence through sheer force. We push, strive, and control, believing that this is the only way to make progress. However, as Lao Tzu would argue, this constant striving can lead to exhaustion and frustration. The harder we push, the harder life seems to push back. This creates a tension that prevents us from achieving what we truly desire. To break free from this cycle, Lao Tzu teaches that we need to let go of our obsessive need for control and learn to flow with life's natural course. This doesn't mean being passive or inactive. It means trusting that when we act in harmony with the world around us, we become more effective and successful without the strain of forcing things into place. This is the essence of effortless action. We do the necessary things, but without the heavy weight of trying to control every aspect of the process. A powerful example of Wu Wei can be found in leadership. Great leaders know when to step back and allow their teams to flourish on their own. They understand that leadership is not about constantly dictating what others should do, but about creating an environment where people are empowered to do their best work. By trusting the process and delegating responsibility, they allow others to act in their own best interests. This creates a mutual trust that allows the entire organization to thrive. The most successful leaders are those who recognize that sometimes the best way to lead is by doing less, by trusting in the abilities of others and stepping back to let them shine. This is a stark contrast to the approach of many modern leaders, who feel the need to control every detail of their organization. Over-controlling leaders may feel that they are doing their job well by overseeing every action, but in reality, they are often creating a stifling environment that limits creativity and initiative. The result is an organization that struggles to grow and innovate. By embracing Wu Wei, however, leaders can create an environment of trust and autonomy, which leads to greater creativity, innovation, and success. In the realm of personal growth, Wu Wei teaches us to trust the process of life and let go of the need to control every aspect of our journey. We often think that in order to achieve our goals, we must relentlessly pursue them, forcing ourselves to stay on track at all costs. However, Lao Tzu teaches that true growth comes from allowing ourselves to evolve naturally, without the pressure of trying to make everything happen according to our own timeline. When we let go of rigid expectations, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities that we may not have seen before. The flow of life often leads us to places we never imagined, but only if we are willing to trust and let go. This is where the concept of flow in modern psychology aligns with Lao Tzu's teachings. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who coined the term flow, describes it as the state of complete immersion and engagement in an activity, where the mind is fully absorbed and action seems to occur effortlessly. In a state of flow, the individual is no longer striving to control the outcome, they're simply acting in response to the present moment. This is the same state of effortless action that Lao Tzu advocates. In flow, as in Wu Wei, we are completely in sync with our actions, allowing them to unfold naturally and without resistance. Another example of Wu Wei in our personal lives can be seen in relationships. Often, the more we try to control or manipulate our relationships, the more we push people away. Whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or a colleague, forcing someone to behave in a certain way or trying to control the direction of a relationship only creates tension. Instead, when we allow relationships to grow naturally, trusting the other person and respecting their individuality, we find that these relationships flourish without the need for force or manipulation. Lao Tzu's wisdom about non-action is not about avoiding action entirely. It's about recognizing the right moment to act and acting in a way that is aligned with the natural flow of things. True mastery, according to Lao Tzu, is not in constantly trying to control and force outcomes, but in knowing when to let go and trust in the process. In our modern lives, where stress and overwork have become the norm, Lao Tzu's teachings remind us of the importance of balance. Rather than relentlessly pushing toward a goal, we are reminded to take a step back and assess the natural flow of our efforts. When we let go of our need to control every outcome, we open ourselves to a more harmonious and fulfilling way of life. By embracing Wu Wei, we can achieve success in a way that is less about force and more about alignment. We achieve our goals not by pushing harder, but by flowing with the currents of life, trusting that the universe will unfold in its own time and in its own way. In the end, Lao Tzu teaches us that the less we try to control, the more we accomplish. And perhaps that's the most profound lesson of all. At the core of Taoism lies a concept that, although fundamental to the philosophy, remains elusive and difficult to grasp. This concept is known as the Tao, pronounced Dao, which is translated as the way or the path. Lao Tzu, the sage and author of the Tao Te Ching, introduces the Tao as a mysterious and all-encompassing force that is the source of everything in the universe. In fact, he describes it as the ultimate force of nature, the underlying principle that guides and shapes the flow of existence. The Tao is fundamentally unknowable in the intellectual sense. According to Lao Tzu, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. This statement is one of the most significant insights in Taoism, underscoring the idea that the Tao is beyond human understanding and cannot be captured fully through words or concepts. It is an idea that transcends human logic and perception, and it governs everything from the smallest particles to the vastness of the cosmos. While we may attempt to conceptualize the Tao, it exists beyond the realm of thought and is experienced through its manifestations in the world around us. Lao Tzu encourages us to approach the Tao not through intellectual analysis or rigid definitions, but through intuition, experience, and alignment. It is not something that can be explained or understood in the traditional sense. Instead, it is something to be felt and embraced in the way we live our lives. The concept of the Tao might seem abstract at first, but can be made clearer through examples of natural phenomena. For instance, think of a river flowing through a valley. The river moves naturally, carving its path through the landscape with effortless ease. It does not force its way. It simply follows the natural contours of the earth. Over time, the river smooths out its path, erodes obstacles, and creates harmony in its surroundings. In this analogy, the river represents the Tao, a force that guides and shapes the world, without the need for forceful intervention. We too are part of this natural flow. Lao Tzu's teachings suggest that just as the river flows with ease and without resistance, so should we live our lives in harmony with the Tao. We are not meant to fight against life, but to flow with it, adapting to the circumstances around us, trusting that the Tao will guide us toward balance and fulfillment. This brings us to the core principle of Taoism. Living in alignment with the Tao leads to peace, harmony, and a sense of effortless fulfillment. One of the key aspects of the Tao is that it is both immanent and transcendent. It permeates all aspects of life, from the natural world to human behavior. Yet it also transcends the physical realm and cannot be fully contained or controlled. It is present in everything but remains beyond the grasp of the mind. For example, consider the seasons of the year. We know that the seasons change, and each season plays a specific role in the cycle of nature. Spring gives birth to new life, summer nurtures growth. Autumn prepares for harvest, and winter brings rest. Each season follows its natural course, governed by the Tao, without the need for human intervention. No matter how hard we may try to control the weather, the seasons will continue to flow in their natural rhythm, because they are aligned with the Tao. In the same way, our lives have a natural rhythm, and when we align ourselves with that rhythm, we experience life with less resistance and greater ease. The Tao is also often described as a force of perfect harmony and balance. It is not something that is rigid or fixed. Rather, it is dynamic, constantly shifting and adapting to the conditions of the moment. In this sense, the Tao can be compared to the concept of yin and yang, the idea that opposite forces are interconnected and interdependent, and together they create balance and harmony in the universe. The Tao encompasses both light and dark, masculine and feminine, active and passive, and it is through the interaction of these opposites that the world comes into being. Take a look at the balance of day and night. The transition between day and night happens naturally, with no effort required. The sun rises and sets according to its own rhythm, and the moon rises in response. The cycle of day and night creates a natural balance in the world, a harmony that we experience without needing to force anything to happen. Similarly, when we live in harmony with the Tao, we experience a sense of balance in our own lives, where opposing forces such as work and rest, action and reflection coexist in a natural, balanced way. Lao Tzu urges us to understand that the Tao is not something we can control. It is not an external force that can be manipulated or coerced. Instead, it is an internal principle that we must align with. This is a difficult concept for many of us to accept because we are taught to believe that control is the key to success. We are told to take charge, make plans, and force outcomes. But Lao Tzu teaches us that true wisdom lies not in controlling everything around us, but in relinquishing control and allowing things to unfold as they naturally should. In our modern world, this idea can be particularly challenging. We live in a society that values productivity, achievement, and the relentless pursuit of goals. We are often taught that in order to succeed, we must push ourselves beyond our limits, compete, and force our way to the top. But Lao Tzu's teachings offer an alternative. Success, fulfillment, and peace come not from forcing things to happen, but from aligning with the natural flow of life. Imagine a moment in your life when everything seemed to fall into place effortlessly. Perhaps you were working on a project or pursuing a goal, and for some reason, things just seemed to flow smoothly. You didn't have to push or force anything. Everything simply fell into alignment. This is a taste of living in harmony with the Tao. It's a state of being where effort feels light and outcomes are achieved without the struggle and stress that often accompany them. One of the most important teachings of Taoism is that life is a dynamic, ever-changing flow, and our role is not to force things to happen, but to move with this flow. This idea is vividly illustrated in Lao Tzu's statement. Those who follow the Tao are like the river that flows with ease. The river does not struggle. It simply flows with the natural contours of the earth, adapting to every turn and obstacle. It doesn't need to control the landscape. Instead, it works in harmony with it. Similarly, when we align with the Tao, we can move through life with ease, accepting the twists and turns, and trusting that life will unfold in the best possible way. Lao Tzu also points out that the Tao is a force that is always at work, even when we are not aware of it. This aligns with his teachings about the importance of stillness and non-action. Sometimes, in our attempt to control or improve a situation, we inadvertently disrupt the natural order. By embracing stillness and allowing things to unfold naturally, we are able to tap into the underlying power of the Tao, which is always working in the background, shaping the world around us. This is the essence of Taoist wisdom, to trust in the process, to let go of the need to control, and to move in harmony with the natural flow of life. It's important to note that the Tao does not advocate for passivity or inaction. It encourages us to act when necessary, but to do so in a way that is effortless and aligned with the natural order. Action should not be forced or strained, but should arise naturally from the situation. Just as a tree does not force itself to grow, but grows naturally in accordance with the conditions around it, so too should our actions arise naturally from our circumstances. The Tao teaches us to live with flexibility, acceptance, and awareness. When we let go of the need to control every aspect of our lives and instead trust in the natural flow of things, we can experience a deep sense of peace and balance. Life becomes less about fighting against the current and more about moving with it, trusting that the Tao will guide us to where we need to be. In conclusion, the Tao is an ancient and profound concept that invites us to let go of our need for control and to live in harmony with the world around us. It is a force that governs the universe, shaping all things in a perfect balance. By aligning with the Tao, we can experience life with ease, moving with the natural flow of events and achieving our goals without the struggle. Just as the river flows effortlessly through the land, so too can we move through life with grace, trust, and balance. The Tao is not something we can fully understand, but it is something we can experience by living in harmony with it. Through this alignment, we can find peace, wisdom, and a deep sense of fulfillment in our lives. Lao Tzu's concept of Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action, represents one of the most profound and transformative ideas in Taoist philosophy. At first glance, the idea of non-action may seem like inaction or laziness, suggesting that the way to live effectively is to do nothing at all. However, in reality, Wu Wei is a much deeper and more dynamic concept than merely sitting idle. It's about aligning oneself with the natural flow of life, acting in a way that is harmonious, fluid, and free of force. The idea of Wu Wei suggests that rather than trying to control and force outcomes, we should allow things to unfold naturally. Instead of struggling against the current of life, we are invited to flow with it, like a river moving around obstacles without resistance. This doesn't mean we should refrain from action. Rather, it teaches us to take action that is in alignment with the natural course of events. Wu Wei is the art of doing less but achieving more, where our actions are more effective because they come from a place of ease, understanding, and natural rhythm. This principle of Wu Wei can be understood as the art of acting without effort. Lao Tzu argues that when we try to force things to happen, when we try to impose our will upon situations, our efforts often backfire, creating resistance rather than harmony. For instance, consider a situation in which we try too hard to impress someone or make something happen. Often, the harder we try, the more we distance ourselves from our desired outcome. We might say the wrong things, act awkwardly, or push too hard for a result, which leads to frustration and failure. But when we allow ourselves to act without unnecessary effort, our actions tend to flow more smoothly and are much more effective. In a practical sense, Wu Wei means not pushing or striving against the flow of life. It's about knowing when to act and when to step back. For example, imagine trying to manage a team at work. A manager who micromanages every detail of the team's work might believe that they are doing their job well, but they may inadvertently stifle creativity and initiative. By contrast, a manager who practices Wu Wei would empower the team, allowing them to take ownership of their work, trusting that the natural flow of the team's collective efforts will lead to success without constant intervention. Wu Wei can also be seen in the natural world, which is governed by effortless actions. A tree grows without effort, bending in the direction of the sunlight and the rain, responding to its environment naturally and efficiently. It doesn't strain to grow, it simply grows in harmony with its environment. Similarly, humans can function in the same way. If we allow ourselves to act without forcing things, we can achieve great results while maintaining balance and peace. Consider the example of a skilled musician playing an instrument. When they're in the zone, their movements are effortless. They're not consciously thinking about every note they play. Instead, they're responding naturally to the music, flowing with the rhythm and the melody. This is Wu Wei in action. There is no strain, no forceful effort. The musician is not struggling to play the music. They're simply allowing the music to flow through them. Wu Wei also plays a significant role in leadership. A leader who practices Wu Wei does not try to control every action, but instead encourages their team to act on their own initiative, trusting that the team will perform effectively if given the freedom to do so. The best leaders often allow their team members to take the lead, stepping back and providing guidance only when necessary. This type of leadership is responsive and flexible, allowing the natural strengths of the team to emerge without interference. For instance, consider a successful startup company. The founder of the company may practice Wu Wei by trusting their team to take ownership of projects and responsibilities, rather than constantly micromanaging. By stepping back and allowing employees to take initiative, the founder creates an environment in which everyone feels empowered to contribute, leading to innovation and success. The company moves forward not because of rigid control, but because of the natural flow of ideas, creativity, and collaboration. Wu Wei is about responsiveness rather than reactivity. Often, we react to situations from a place of fear, anxiety, or urgency. We may feel like we need to act quickly to fix something or control a situation. But these reactive behaviors can lead to unintended consequences. Instead, Wu Wei invites us to be responsive, meaning we engage with the present moment without being controlled by our impulses or emotions. We respond thoughtfully, adapting to the situation as it unfolds, without forcing our will upon it. Think of the example of a parent-child relationship. A parent who is reactive may become frustrated or angry when their child misbehaves, immediately punishing the child without considering the deeper reasons for the behavior. On the other hand, a parent who practices Wu Wei might take a moment to assess the situation calmly, responding with patience and understanding. By allowing the situation to unfold, they can address the issue in a way that encourages growth and learning, rather than creating conflict or resentment. Wu Wei also has an important application in personal development. In our pursuit of success, we often place immense pressure on ourselves to achieve goals quickly and efficiently. We set rigid deadlines, create overwhelming to-do lists, and force ourselves to work harder than necessary. But this often leads to burnout, frustration, and a sense of inadequacy. Wu Wei teaches us to let go of this pressure, to trust the process, and to act naturally and with purpose. Imagine you're preparing for a big presentation at work. If you try to force the outcome by obsessing over every detail and stressing over how others will perceive you, you may find yourself anxious and faltering during the presentation. But if you approach the task with calm and trust in your abilities, allowing your natural skills to shine through, you will likely perform better. This is Wu Wei at work, the ability to act without excessive effort, to perform at your best by aligning with the moment rather than pushing against it. Another area where Wu Wei plays a key role is in creative work. Many artists, writers, and musicians know the experience of being in the flow, a state of creative immersion where ideas come effortlessly and the work almost creates itself. This is a perfect example of Wu Wei. The artist is not forcing their creativity. They're simply allowing it to unfold naturally. By surrendering to the process and allowing themselves to be present with their work, they open themselves up to inspiration and insight that would otherwise remain blocked by stress or resistance. In meditation, Wu Wei plays an essential role. Meditation is not about forcing the mind to be still or trying to empty the mind of thoughts. Rather, it is about allowing the mind to settle naturally. By observing thoughts without attachment, we can enter a state of stillness and awareness. This stillness is not forced. It arises from allowing the mind to rest in its natural state. The more we try to control or force our thoughts, the more we become tangled in them. But when we let go of the need to control, the mind can settle into calm, and clarity emerges effortlessly. In all of these examples, whether in leadership, creativity, personal growth, or meditation, the principle of Wu Wei is present, acting with ease, flow, and alignment with the natural world. Wu Wei teaches us that we can accomplish more by doing less, and that effortless action is often the most effective form of action. The wisdom of Wu Wei teaches us that forceful effort often leads to failure, while gentle responsiveness leads to success. By relinquishing the need to control everything, we make room for life to unfold in its own time, and we can respond to situations with greater effectiveness and grace. The power of Wu Wei is not in doing nothing, but in doing what is necessary, at the right time, without forcing the outcome. In conclusion, Wu Wei offers a powerful shift in how we approach action and effort. Rather than constantly striving to control and force outcomes, we are invited to align with the natural flow of life. By doing so, we can achieve more with less effort, moving through life with greater ease, creativity, and peace. Wu Wei reminds us that life is not about pushing harder, but about letting go and allowing things to unfold in their own time. This is the essence of effortless action, where we are fully present in the moment, responding to life with clarity and calm, and allowing the natural order to guide us. At the heart of Lao Tzu's philosophy lies a profound paradox. Non-action leads to action, and doing less leads to more. This paradox is fundamental to Taoist thought and can seem counterintuitive, especially in a world that emphasizes control, ambition, and relentless striving. Lao Tzu's teachings suggest that, rather than pushing forward at all costs, we should embrace the natural flow of life, allowing things to happen in their own time. The more we try to control everything, the more we often hinder progress. By relinquishing control, we open the door for things to unfold more naturally and effortlessly, leading to greater success with less struggle. Lao Tzu's message is simple yet revolutionary. Trying too hard to achieve something often works against us. He writes, "Those who rush ahead don't get very far, and those who try to outshine others dim their own light." These words highlight the dangers of excessive effort and control. When we force outcomes or strive too hard for success, we often end up creating resistance, both within ourselves and in the world around us. By trying to bend the natural course of events to our will, we create obstacles that ultimately push us further from our goals. To understand this paradox, we must first consider what Lao Tzu means by non-action. Non-action, or Wu Wei, does not refer to inaction or passivity. Rather, it refers to a state of being in harmony with the natural flow of life. It's about not forcing things to happen, but allowing them to unfold in their own time. In essence, it's about acting in alignment with the world rather than trying to control it. By trusting in this natural flow and letting go of the need for control, we often achieve our goals in a much more effective and effortless way. In practical terms, this might mean letting go of the need to micromanage every aspect of our lives. For example, think about a manager who insists on overseeing every single detail of a project. In trying to control everything, they might stifle creativity and initiative, leaving their team feeling disengaged or frustrated. In contrast, a manager who practices Wu Wei would trust their team members to take responsibility, stepping in only when necessary. By relinquishing control, the manager creates an environment where people feel empowered to do their best work, often leading to better results with less intervention. This principle can also be applied to our personal lives. We often try to control outcomes in our relationships, careers, or personal growth. For example, someone might obsess over finding the perfect romantic partner or landing the ideal job, only to find that the more they try to force these outcomes, the more elusive they become. By letting go of the pressure to control every aspect of their lives, they open themselves up to the possibility that things will come to them more naturally. Success in these areas often happens when we stop trying so hard and allow ourselves to be present in the moment, trusting that the right opportunities will arise when the time is right. Lao Tzu's advice to stop striving and instead trust in the natural flow of life aligns with mindfulness practices in modern psychology. Mindfulness emphasizes living in the present moment, rather than being consumed by worries about the future or regrets about the past. When we practice mindfulness, we become less fixated on controlling outcomes and more open to the unfolding of life as it happens. This shift in mindset allows us to act with greater clarity, calm, and purpose. Let's consider the example of a successful entrepreneur. Many entrepreneurs start their journey with a clear vision and a sense of purpose. However, as they progress, they may feel the urge to control every detail of their business. They may micromanage employees, overanalyze every decision, or become obsessed with perfection. In doing so, they often create an environment of stress, frustration, and inefficiency. On the other hand, entrepreneurs who practice Lao Tzu's principle of non-action understand that they don't need to control every aspect of their business to succeed. Instead, they trust in the process, allow their team members to take ownership of their work, and remain open to adapting as circumstances change. This flexibility often leads to greater creativity, innovation, and long-term success. Similarly, in personal growth, the more we push ourselves to change, the harder it becomes to make meaningful progress. For example, someone who is struggling with self-doubt might push themselves to constantly prove their worth, seeking external validation from others. This constant striving for validation often leads to feelings of frustration and insecurity because external approval is elusive and temporary. Instead of pushing for validation, Lao Tzu's teachings encourage us to trust in our own worth and accept ourselves as we are. When we let go of the need to prove ourselves to others, we find that self-acceptance naturally leads to greater confidence and personal fulfillment. In relationships, Lao Tzu's principle of non-action teaches us that forcing connections or trying to control others often leads to disappointment. For example, in a romantic relationship, one partner might feel the need to constantly control the behavior of the other, perhaps out of fear or insecurity. This controlling behavior can create tension and resentment, undermining the foundation of the relationship. However, when both partners practice trust and allow the relationship to evolve naturally, they often find that they are able to communicate more openly and connect on a deeper level. Relationships thrive when we stop trying to control them and instead let them develop in a way that feels natural for both parties. Lao Tzu also applies this idea to the concept of leadership. A leader who tries to control every aspect of their organization or project might believe they are doing what is necessary for success. However, in doing so, they often stifle creativity, innovation, and motivation within their team. In contrast, a leader who practices Wu Wei empowers others, providing them with the trust and space to make their own decisions. This type of leadership is not about being passive or uninvolved. It is about guiding rather than directing and allowing the team to grow and develop on its own terms. This approach fosters a sense of autonomy, ownership, and accountability, ultimately leading to better results. In this way, Non-action does not mean doing nothing. It means acting in harmony with the flow of life rather than trying to force our will upon it. It's about letting go of the need for control and trusting that things will work out as they should. By relinquishing the need for excessive effort, we allow ourselves to be more effective in our actions because we are working with the natural rhythm of life rather than against it. One of the most difficult things for people to accept in Lao Tzu's philosophy is the idea that the more we try to control, the less we accomplish. In a society that celebrates hustle culture, it can be challenging to step back and embrace non-action. We are taught from a young age that success requires effort, and that hard work is the key to achieving our goals. But Lao Tzu's teachings turn this idea on its head. Excessive effort and control often create obstacles that keep us from achieving what we desire. By trying to force outcomes, we often create resistance and prevent ourselves from experiencing the natural flow of life. The wisdom of non-action teaches us that the key to success is not always in doing more, but in doing less with greater intention and clarity. Instead of rushing forward without thinking, we can take a step back, trust the process, and act when the time is right. This approach is not only more effective, but it also leads to a deeper sense of peace, balance, and fulfillment. In conclusion, the central paradox of Lao Tzu's philosophy that non-action leads to action and doing less leads to more is a powerful and transformative idea. By letting go of the need to control every aspect of our lives, we can allow things to unfold naturally, leading to greater success with far less effort. Lao Tzu's teachings challenge us to trust in the natural flow of life and to embrace a mindset of flexibility, trust, and adaptation. By doing so, we free ourselves from the struggle and stress of trying to force outcomes, and we open ourselves up to a more peaceful, effective, and fulfilling way of living. Wu Wei. The concept of non-action or effortless action is not just a philosophical ideal. It's a practical tool that can transform various aspects of our lives. Understanding the theory behind Wu Wei is one thing, but putting it into practice is where its true power lies. While it's easy to say we should stop forcing things, it's another thing entirely to truly embrace this way of being. When we start applying Wu Wei in our daily lives, whether in leadership, creativity, relationships, or personal growth, we begin to experience the transformative power of letting go of control and allowing life to unfold in its natural rhythm. One of the most profound applications of Wu Wei is in leadership. Traditionally, leadership has been associated with control, making decisions, setting the agenda, and directing the actions of others. Many leaders believe that in order to be effective, they must assert their will and exercise tight control over every aspect of their organization. However, Lao Tzu challenges this view with his teaching that the best leaders lead without controlling. In other words, great leadership is about guiding, not commanding, and about fostering an environment where people can thrive without constant interference. Leaders who practice Wu Wei understand that their role is not to micromanage or force outcomes, but to empower those they lead. For instance, in a business setting, a manager who trusts their employees to take ownership of projects without hovering over them allows for greater creativity, innovation, and ownership among the team. Such an environment encourages initiative and fosters a sense of responsibility. When leaders let go of the need to control every detail, they create space for the team to perform at their best, ultimately leading to better results. This concept isn't just theoretical, it's something that can be seen in action in successful companies around the world. For example, Google is known for its relatively non-hierarchical structure, where employees at all levels are encouraged to take initiative and contribute ideas. This environment of freedom and trust allows for creativity to flourish. In many of Google's most innovative products, like Gmail and Google Maps, emerge from employees working on side projects with little direct supervision. The company fosters a culture that empowers individuals to act independently while trusting that the natural flow of innovation will lead to success. This is a perfect example of Wu Wei in practice, leaders stepping back to allow the natural process of creativity to unfold without forced interference. The negative side of over-control is evident in organizations where leaders attempt to micromanage every decision and process. In these situations, employees may become disengaged, frustrated, and demotivated because they feel stifled. The organization's natural flow is disrupted, and instead of fostering a productive environment, the overbearing leadership only creates inefficiency and resentment. This is the stark contrast to Wu Wei, where the leader's role is to facilitate and allow the team to reach its full potential without pushing too hard. Leaders practicing Wu Wei create a balanced environment where team members feel empowered to take ownership of their work and contribute to the company's goals. In creativity, Wu Wei is equally transformative. The concept aligns closely with the psychological idea of flow, a state of deep immersion in an activity where time seems to disappear, and everything feels effortless. In this state, the individual is completely engaged and action flows naturally without forced effort. Athletes, artists, musicians, and writers often experience this state when they are fully immersed in their craft. In flow, the individual feels like they are one with their activity. There is no resistance, no struggle, just pure engagement with the task at hand. Wu Wei teaches us that to reach this state of effortless action, we must release the need to control and allow ourselves to be present in the moment. This is where the magic happens. When we stop trying so hard to force our creativity, we open the door for inspiration to come naturally. In contrast, when we are rigid and overthink our work, we often block the creative flow. By letting go of the need to control the outcome, we allow the natural rhythm of our creativity to unfold, leading to more innovative and effective results. Take the example of an artist who spends hours trying to create the perfect painting. But no matter how much effort they put in, they can't seem to capture what they want. The more they try to force it, the more frustrated they become. Now, imagine the same artist deciding to take a break and simply allowing their mind to relax and their creativity to flow naturally. When they return to their canvas, they no longer feel the pressure to make the painting perfect. Instead, they allow the strokes to happen spontaneously, and the result is often more authentic and vibrant than if they had forced it. Similarly, in sports, athletes often experience the flow state during competition, when their actions feel effortless and instinctive. Basketball players, for instance, may describe moments when they're playing the game, not thinking about the next move, but simply reacting to the situation as it unfolds. This state of flow is an example of Wu Wei in action. The athlete is no longer trying to control the outcome, but instead allows their body to react in harmony with the game. The more they let go of effort and allow themselves to respond naturally, the better their performance becomes. This is an important lesson for anyone engaged in creative work. Whether you're a writer struggling to find the right words, a musician attempting to compose a piece of music, or a designer working on a new project, Wu Wei teaches that the key to creativity is not force, but flow. When you stop trying to force ideas or push for immediate results, you may find that creativity comes more easily. Trusting the process and allowing your ideas to evolve naturally often leads to better outcomes than pushing yourself to create something perfect right away. Wu Wei doesn't only apply to professional life or creativity, it has profound implications for personal relationships as well. In relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, trying to control others can often lead to resentment and conflict. For example, consider a situation in which one partner constantly tries to change the other's behavior or impose their expectations. This creates friction and a lack of harmony because one person is exerting force on the other. In contrast, when individuals practice Wu Wei in their relationships, they allow things to evolve naturally, trusting that both partners will grow together in their own time. In a romantic relationship, instead of trying to change or control your partner's behavior. Practicing Wu Wei means allowing the relationship to unfold naturally. You trust that both of you will support each other, and through that mutual support, your relationship will grow and deepen. There's no need for forceful action or manipulation to make things work. By letting go of control and allowing the relationship to evolve naturally, you can experience greater harmony, understanding, and trust. This concept extends to any kind of relationship where acceptance and allowing take precedence over trying to shape others to fit your expectations. Another practical example of Wu Wei is in health and well-being. Many people struggle with their health, obsessing over strict diets, exercise routines, and controlling every aspect of their lifestyle. While it's important to take care of ourselves, the more we try to control every aspect of our physical being, the more we become disconnected from our body's natural rhythms. By practicing Wu Wei in health, we can listen to our bodies respond to our needs and act in harmony with what feels good rather than trying to force a rigid, externally imposed ideal of health. For example, someone might push themselves to exercise for an hour each day, even when their body is tired or in pain. However, if they practiced Wu Wei, they would listen to their body, recognize when they need rest, and adjust their routine accordingly, leading to better long-term health and well-being. One of the biggest challenges in practicing Wu Wei is letting go of the need for control. We live in a world where control is often equated with success. But Lao Tzu's wisdom teaches us that true mastery comes from knowing when to let go and allow things to unfold on their own. In doing so, we not only achieve more with less effort, but we also open ourselves up to a deeper experience of life, one that is full of joy, creativity, and harmony. Ultimately, Wu Wei is about balance, knowing when to act and when to let things happen. It's about trusting the process and recognizing that some of the best things in life happen not because we force them to, but because we allow them to naturally unfold. Whether in leadership, creativity, relationships, or personal growth, Wu Wei teaches us that the more we trust, the less we control, and the more effortlessly we will achieve our goals. By embracing this principle, we allow ourselves to experience the flow of life in a more fulfilling, effective, and harmonious way. Lao Tzu's philosophy offers a profound rethinking of how we live our lives, approach success, and pursue personal growth. In a world where the value of hard work, control, and constant effort is often emphasized, Lao Tzu presents a radically different approach. One where action is not something to be forced or controlled, but rather something that aligns with the natural flow of life. By embracing this philosophy, we allow ourselves to move with the current of existence, making our actions more effective and our goals more easily achieved. This powerful shift in perspective opens up new ways of interacting with the world, offering us a more peaceful, creative, and harmonious way of living. At the core of this transformation is the concept of Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action or non-action. Unlike the common interpretation of doing nothing, Wu Wei is about acting in harmony with the natural rhythms of life, responding to situations with ease and grace rather than force. By practicing Wu Wei, we let go of the need to control everything, trusting in the process and embracing spontaneity and openness. It's not about sitting back and being passive, but rather about acting in a way that flows naturally with minimal effort. This approach allows us to achieve more by doing less, because we are working in alignment with the natural flow of the universe. To truly understand the power of Wu Wei, we must look at how it applies to various areas of life. In leadership, for example, the traditional view emphasizes control, direction, and commanding others. A leader is often seen as someone who dictates the course of action, makes all the decisions, and is responsible for every outcome. However, Lao Tzu's philosophy suggests that the best leaders are not those who exert the most control, but those who empower others and allow things to unfold naturally. By trusting the abilities of their teams and not micromanaging every detail, great leaders create an environment where creativity and innovation can flourish. They step back, give others room to act, and allow the natural processes of the team to guide the way. This approach is in stark contrast to more traditional leadership styles that prioritize control and rigid planning. Leaders who practice Wu Wei understand that sometimes the best way to lead is by stepping back and letting things happen organically. In the realm of creativity, Wu Wei is equally transformative. Many creative people, whether they are artists, writers, musicians, or designers, have experienced moments when their work flowed effortlessly. In these moments, ideas came to them almost out of nowhere, and the work seemed to create itself. This is the essence of Wu Wei, the state where action and awareness merge, and everything seems to fall into place. However, when we force creativity, when we try too hard to make something happen, it often leads to frustration and blockages. Wu Wei teaches us to release control over the creative process and to trust that inspiration will come when we stop trying so hard to find it. The more we try to control the process, the more we disrupt the natural flow. But when we allow ourselves to simply be present in the moment, our creativity flows effortlessly, often producing work that is far better than anything we could have forced. This principle also applies in sports. Athletes, especially in competitive environments, often experience moments when they are in the zone. During these moments, they perform effortlessly, reacting naturally to the game and feeling fully immersed in the present moment. They are not consciously thinking about every move they make. Instead, their body moves instinctively in response to the environment. This state of effortless action is a perfect example of Wu Wei. The athlete is no longer forcing their performance, but is simply responding to the situation as it arises. When they stop trying to control every movement, they're able to perform at their highest level. This is why great athletes often talk about flow states moments when they feel completely in tune with the task at hand and their actions feel natural and effortless. These moments are where success and efficiency happen, and they are achieved not by forcing the outcome, but by letting go of the need to control it. In our personal lives, Wu Wei can have a similarly profound impact. In our relationships, for instance, we often try to control how others behave, especially those we care about. We want our friends, family, or romantic partners to act a certain way. And when they don't meet our expectations, we might feel frustrated or disappointed. This creates tension and resistance in the relationship. However, when we practice Wu Wei, we let go of the need to control others. Instead of forcing our will onto them, we allow them the space to be themselves and trust that the relationship will unfold naturally. Acceptance and trust replace the pressure to control, leading to more harmonious relationships. This principle can also apply to parenting, where forcing children to behave in a specific way often results in resistance and rebellion. Instead, when parents practice Wu Wei, they provide guidance and support while trusting that their children will grow and learn in their own time. This approach leads to mutual respect, understanding, and growth for both parents and children. The idea of non-action or effortless action is also essential in the field of personal development. Many people struggle with achieving personal growth, often because they are too focused on trying to control the process. They may obsess over self-improvement, pushing themselves too hard, or trying to force change in their lives. But Lao Tzu teaches that the more we try to force change, the more we disrupt our natural growth. Instead, personal development comes when we let go of rigid expectations and trust the process. We don't need to try so hard to be perfect. By practicing acceptance, self-compassion, and trusting the natural course of life, we allow ourselves to grow naturally, without the pressure of having to control every aspect of our development. This shift in mindset can make personal growth feel more effortless and authentic, rather than something that feels like a constant struggle. When it comes to health and well-being, The principles of Wu Wei can also make a significant difference. In today's world, many people are obsessed with controlling their health through dieting, exercise, and self-discipline. While these things are important, the pressure to control every aspect of one's health can lead to stress and burnout. Wu Wei teaches us to listen to our bodies and respond to our needs without forcing ourselves to adhere to strict rules or rigid routines. Instead of trying to control our bodies through excessive exercise or restrictive diets, we can allow ourselves to be more attuned to our natural rhythms, eating and exercising in ways that feel nourishing and balanced. By practicing Wu Wei, we can move toward better health and well-being, not through force, but by working in harmony with our bodies. One of the most powerful aspects of Wu Wei is that it teaches us to embrace the flow of life and let go of the need to control every outcome. Whether in leadership, creativity, relationships, personal development, or health, Wu Wei helps us release unnecessary effort and instead focus on acting with clarity, spontaneity, and responsiveness. By doing so, we open ourselves to a deeper experience of life, where we are able to achieve our goals with greater ease and effectiveness. Lao Tzu's wisdom reminds us that the more we try to control, the less we accomplish, and that true mastery comes not from force, but from letting things take their natural course. The application of Wu Wei leads to balance and harmony in our lives. When we embrace effortless action, we stop fighting against the natural flow of life. We stop trying to push against the current, and instead, we move with it, trusting that life will guide us where we need to go. By practicing Wu Wei, we can achieve more with less effort, and we can live in a state of greater peace and creativity. The art of Wu Wei teaches us that life does not need to be a constant struggle, but can be a flow of natural and effortless action that leads us to fulfillment and success. All right, now that we've unpacked Lao Tzu's Wu Wei philosophy, it's time to take a step back and reflect. Isn't it amazing how a concept from over 2,000 years ago can still hold so much relevance today? Whether you're leading a team, trying to unlock your creative potential, or simply trying to navigate life with a bit more peace and ease, Wu Wei teaches us a profound lesson. The less we try to control, the more we can achieve. When we stop forcing things, we allow ourselves to be in the flow of life, moving effortlessly towards our goals, without struggle, without friction, without the overwhelming pressure that comes from constantly pushing forward. Instead of fighting against life, we learn to dance with it. By embracing spontaneity, letting go of unnecessary control, and trusting the process, we unlock a new level of success and fulfillment that comes with ease and grace. And the best part? This philosophy isn't just about abstract ideas or spiritual theory, it's about real-world applications. It's about making effortless action work for you in your life. Think about your leadership style, your personal goals, your creative work, and even your health. Applying Wu Wei could be the key to unlocking better results with less burnout, less stress, and more peace of mind. So, the next time you find yourself struggling, remember the ancient wisdom of Lao Tzu. Trust the process, let go of control, and let things unfold naturally. You'll be surprised at how much more you can accomplish when you stop trying so hard. If today's video has inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more insights like this. Your support means the world to me, and it helps keep the content flowing. And if you found this video particularly helpful and want to contribute even more, consider hitting that super thanks button. Your support is what keeps the channel running and helps me bring more deep dives into philosophies, personal development, and success strategies. Remember, life isn't about fighting the current, it's about flowing with it. By practicing Wu Wei, you can not only achieve more, but enjoy the process along the way. Until next time, keep trusting the flow and embrace the effortless path to success.